Arya was just a woman planning a romantic anniversary, until one night shattered everything she thought she knew. A mistaken identity, a forbidden night, an unexpected pregnancy, and a heartbreaking decision to disappear. But 5 years later, fate leads her back to the man she tried to forget, and the truth that could change everything. Who is the real father of her child? And can love rise from betrayal? And can love rise from betrayal and chaos? Where are you watching from? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more emotional, unforgettable stories like this one. Arya Bennett couldn't stop smiling as she lit the last vanilla-scented candle beside the bed. The flickering glow reflected in her wide, excited eyes. It had been almost a year since she started dating Dylan Reed, her first real relationship, and tonight was their anniversary, a full year of being someone's girlfriend. For a girl who had always been the wallflower, the overlooked hotel receptionist, it felt monumental. She glanced at the clock. 6:07 p.m. Still early, she whispered, smoothing down the red silk sheets she'd laid out just for tonight. Plenty of time before he gets here. Arya had planned everything, down to the smallest detail. She'd spent the morning decorating Dylan's bedroom while he was out, transforming the space into a romantic hideaway. Red petals trailed from the doorway to the bed, twinkling fairy lights draped above the headboard. The room practically sighed love. She had even gone shopping, twice. First, for a soft black robe he always said he liked on her. Then, for a set of lace lingerie that made her feel like someone else entirely. Bold, brave, desirable. She blushed thinking about it. It wasn't like her at all, but tonight, she wanted to be different. For him, Dylan had waited patiently through their months together, never pressuring her, even when she could sense the longing in his eyes. She admired his restraint, loved it even. That's why she decided tonight would be the night she gave herself to him, completely. She poured a glass of wine to calm her nerves. It tasted stronger than she expected, but she didn't mind. It helped. The butterflies in her stomach wouldn't stop fluttering. Time passed. At first, she didn't notice. She was too busy practicing her smile in the mirror, checking every angle, fluffing her hair. But by 8:00 p.m., the candles were half, melted. The wine glass was empty. Dylan still hadn't arrived. Maybe traffic, she mumbled, checking her phone again. No messages. No missed calls. Not even a running late text. By 9:30 p.m., her excitement had drained into irritation. Her carefully curled hair began to fall limp as she paced the room, chewing her lip, trying not to cry. By 10:00 p.m., she opened a second bottle of wine. By 11:15 p.m., the decorations looked silly. Childish. She yanked down the streamers she'd hung with so much hope, crumpling the heart-shaped cutouts in her fist. "He's not coming," she whispered to the empty room. In a daze, she slipped off the robe, climbed onto the bed, and flopped down among the rose petals she'd once found romantic. She was still in her lingerie, now wrinkled and a little damp with sweat, from the frustration of waiting. The wine made her head spin. Her eyes felt heavy. She found the satin sleep mask in the drawer and tugged it on, planning to cry herself to sleep, or forget tonight ever existed. Then came the sound. The door creaked open. Her breath caught in her throat. She lifted her head slightly. She called out, voice hopeful, but thick with wine and sadness. No answer, just footsteps. The mattress dipped behind her. She smiled weakly. You scared me. I was just about to fall asleep. A low chuckle. Familiar, but not quite. Strong hands grazed her arms. Lips brushed against her neck, warm and damp. Her body shivered involuntarily. Babe. Why are you being so quiet? She murmured, smiling again. She reached up to remove the mask, but a gentle hand stopped her. Don't, the man whispered. Just stay still. Let me take care of everything. The voice wasn't right. It was lower, more gravel in the tone. A different rhythm. Her stomach twisted with confusion. Is that you, Dylan? She asked. The man didn't answer. Instead, he kissed her shoulder, tracing lines of heat along her skin. Her head spun, wine and nerves making the world blur. Her heart pounded, half fear, half anticipation. Part of her wanted to stop and scream. Part of her was too tired, too disappointed, too eager for this night to mean something. As his touch deepened, her thoughts melted into haze. Maybe I'm just drunk, she told herself. Maybe Dylan's just different tonight. She surrendered, not just to the man in the room, but to the hope that this night could still be special. She had no idea the mistake she was making. The morning sun filtered softly through the half-closed blinds, painting pale golden streaks across the tangled red sheets. Arya's lashes fluttered as she stirred, a faint smile resting on her lips. Her body felt oddly warm and light, a lazy glow lingering beneath her skin. She reached up to rub her eyes, the satin sleep mask sliding off and landing on the pillow beside her. She blinked against the morning light, still half lost in the remnants of a dream, except it hadn't been a dream. Last night, the wine, the waiting, the lips, the voice. Her stomach gave a little lurch as memories tumbled back all at once. How he'd touched her, whispered to her, made her feel things she never thought she could feel. Her heart fluttered as she turned slowly, expecting to see Dylan's familiar face, the face of the man she'd waited a year for. But instead, there was a stranger. Arya's breath caught in her throat. The man lying next to her, still asleep, with tousled dark hair and a sculpted jawline shadowed with stubble, was definitely not Dylan. What the hell? She sat up with a gasp, the sheet clutching her chest. The sudden movement woke him. His eyes blinked open, groggy but piercingly blue, and when they focused on her, they lit up with recognition. "Oh, you're awake," he said, his voice low and husky. "Morning, kitten." "Kitten?" Arya's blood went cold. "Who the hell are you?" she blurted, yanking the sheet tighter around her. He sat up, wincing as he rubbed the back of his head. Whoa. Okay. Relax. You were a lot nicer to me last night. You were in Dylan's apartment, she stammered. This is Dylan's place. Yeah, he said slowly. I know. I have a key. I've stayed here before. This used to be our place, back in college. Her eyes narrowed. You're Cameron, Dylan's old college roommate. Ding, 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 he said with a half-smile that was far too casual for the situation. Cameron West in the flesh. Oh my God, Arya whispered, horrified. This isn't happening. You really didn't recognize me last night? Cameron asked, sitting forward now, suddenly serious. I assumed you were some wild surprise from Dylan. A gift or something. A gift, Arya echoed, her voice rising. Are you seriously telling me you thought I was some kind of present? What kind of guy is that? Cameron's brows furrowed. Look, I admit, it was reckless. But I didn't know who you were. I got in late, saw the lights, the candles, the lingerie. Don't, she snapped. Don't talk about the lingerie. He raised his hands. Okay, sorry, but listen, did you not realize it was me? I mean, the voice, the face, you didn't see? I was wearing a blindfold, she shouted. I thought you were Dylan. A tense silence filled the space between them. Arya's heart pounded in her chest like a war drum.
Side.
Cameron's expression shifted. His smirk vanished, replaced by a flicker of guilt. Arya, I didn't know. I didn't know. I swear. I wouldn't have touched you if I'd known. I'm sorry. She stood abruptly, clutching the sheet-like armor. Sorry doesn't erase what happened. Sorry doesn't give me back the one thing I can never give anyone else. I get it, Cameron said quietly. I do. And I know saying sorry isn't enough. But I hope you believe me when I say I never meant to hurt you. Arya's chest rose and fell rapidly, her mind racing. She felt like she couldn't breathe. Her carefully planned night had turned into a nightmare she couldn't wake from. I can't look at you, she whispered. I need to go. Arya, he started, but she held up a hand. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Don't say another word. Her voice trembled. I don't want to see you ever again. And with that, she turned and walked out of the bedroom, out of Dylan's apartment, out of the most humiliating mistake of her life. The city air felt heavier than usual as Arya stepped onto the sidewalk outside Dylan's building, her heels clicking against the pavement, echoing like a clock ticking toward a breakdown. The shame was unbearable. Every step away from that apartment felt like she was trying to escape her own skin. She didn't stop walking until she reached her own building. When she opened the door, Zoe looked up from the couch, chips in one hand and her phone in the other. Hey, how'd it go? Zoe asked, grinning. Did you finally? Arya slammed the door behind her. Zoe blinked. What happened? Why do you look like you just saw a ghost? And... Wait. Are those tear streaks on your face? Arya didn't say a word. She dropped her purse on the floor and walked straight into the kitchen, pulling open a cabinet and grabbing a glass. Her hands shook as she filled it with water. Arya. Zoe's tone softened. What happened? I made a mistake, Arya said, voice low, breathless. Zoe rose from the couch, approaching slowly. A mistake. What kind of mistake? Arya turned, her eyes red. I gave myself to the wrong person. Zoe's mouth parted slightly. Wait, what? It wasn't Dylan, Arya whispered. It was his friend, Cameron. There was silence. A long, stunned silence. Cameron? As in Cameron West, the guy who moved out of state after college? That Cameron? Arya nodded miserably. Zoe sat down on one of the kitchen stools, like her knees had given out. How does that even happen? I decorated Dylan's apartment. Candles, lingerie, everything. I waited for hours. He never showed up. I drank. I fell asleep with a blindfold on. I thought it was Dylan who came in. Her voice cracked, but it was Cameron. He thought I was some sort of welcome gift from Dylan. Jesus, Zoe whispered. Arya's hands gripped the edge of the counter. I thought I was giving Dylan my virginity. but it was a complete stranger. Zoe stood again, moving toward her. Arya, listen to me. You didn't cheat. You didn't know. You were tricked by circumstance, not by choice. Arya looked away. Does it matter? I still did it. I let someone touch me who I didn't even know. And now, what do I do? Zoe hesitated.
Are you going to tell Dylan?
I don't know, Arya said, running her fingers through her hair. I thought I would. I thought maybe I could be honest. But what if it ruins everything? What if he hates me? What if I destroy his friendship with Cameron? Babe, Zoe said gently, you didn't destroy anything. If anyone's got explaining to do, it's Dylan, for not showing up. 3 days passed, and Arya didn't hear a word from him. No texts, no calls, no apology, not even a dumb meme. Part of her was relieved, because she still didn't know how to face him. But another part of her, the part that had loved him so completely for a year, was breaking more and more with every hour of silence. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore. She dressed simply, tied her hair back, and marched back to his apartment. We need to tell you the truth. As soon as she stepped inside, sound stopped her in her tracks. Moaning, loud, unmistakable moaning, from behind Dylan's bedroom door. Arya froze. No, she thought. No, 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 no. Maybe it's just a movie. A video game. But then the door creaked slightly open, just enough for her to see. It was Dylan, in bed, with another woman. Arya, he said, eyes wide, scrambling to cover himself. The woman, tall, brunette, smug, just smirked. Oh, she said mockingly. So this is the boring little girlfriend you told me about. Arya didn't flinch, didn't scream, didn't cry. She simply stared. Continue, she said coldly. I'm just here to give you some privacy. She turned and walked away. Arya, wait, please. We need to talk. She didn't stop. Talk to her, Dylan. You seem to have more in common. Arya, please. She whirled around. Don't touch me. He stopped dead. I waited for you. I waited for you on our anniversary. While you were busy with her, she spat. So here's the truth, Dylan. The thing I was saving for you. Someone else took it, and you know what? Maybe that's justice. And with that, she walked away. For good this time. Arya stood in front of her closet, the anger still fresh in her veins. Her fingers brushed over the soft cotton blouses and modest jeans she usually wore. None of it felt right anymore, not after everything that had happened. Not after being made a fool of, by Dylan, by Cameron, by life itself. She grabbed the first form, fitting dress she could find, a midnight blue one Zoe had convinced her to buy months ago, and she'd never dared wear. Tonight, that changed. She curled her hair, painted her lips a daring shade of red, and let her heels click confidently across the marble floors of the upscale mall downtown. She hadn't planned to shop, but as she passed by the windows, sequin dresses, pointed stilettos, rows of perfume bottles like miniature weapons. Something inside her snapped. If she was going to be labeled the boring girlfriend, then fine. She would become anything but boring. By the time she left the last boutique, her arms were full of glossy shopping bags, and her bank account had taken a beating. She didn't care. A new outfit, a new shade of lipstick, a new area. The stylist at the salon gasped when Arya sat down in her chair. Darling, she said, practically vibrating with excitement. You're about to ruin hearts." "Good," Arya said, her voice flat. "That's exactly what I want." When the stylist turned her around to face the mirror an hour later, Arya almost didn't recognize herself. Her long dark hair had been transformed into glossy waves. Her brows framed her eyes like she belonged on a magazine cover, and her skin glowed. She looked dangerous. She looked free. "Wow," Arya breathed. "You look like revenge," the stylist said with a grin. Arya smiled faintly. "Perfect." An hour later, she stood outside Velvet Room, a members' only nightclub known for catering to the city's most influential men. The music pulsed through the walls like a heartbeat. The music pulsed through the walls like a heartbeat. The bouncer gave her a slow once over and let her in without a word. Inside was chaos. Flashing lights, bodies swaying to the rhythm, laughter and shouting echoing beneath the blaring beat. Arya stepped inside, instantly aware of eyes turning toward her. Men glanced her way, some openly, some trying to be subtle. A few even approached. She brushed past them like mist. It was all too much. The music, the smell of cologne and alcohol, the heat pressing in from every side. This wasn't her world, no matter how she dressed. She wasn't made for velvet ropes and whispered invitations. She slipped away up the staircase she spotted near the bar, emerging onto the rooftop, where the air was clearer, the city stretching out like a canvas of lights below her. She leaned against the railing, letting the wind cool her flushed cheeks. Finally, peace. Until she saw him. A man stood at the edge of the rooftop, one foot dangerously close to the ledge, arms resting on the railing like he was deciding something. "Hey!" Arya shouted. "Don't! Don't even think about it!" She rushed over, grabbed his arm, and yanked him back with all the strength she could muster. They both toppled to the ground, her body pinning his. "Ow!" he groaned beneath her. "I might actually die from you crushing me." Her heart pounded. "What the hell is wrong with you? Were you trying to jump?" He blinked up at her, eyes glassy. Then he smiled. "Oh, it's you." Arya froze. "Cameron," she said, breathless. "Arya," he slurred, laughing softly. "Damn. You look. Wow. Definitely not like the girl who screamed at me 3 days ago." She shoved herself off him. "What are you even doing up here?" "Thinking," he said, sitting up slowly. "And drinking, obviously." "You scared me," she muttered, crossing her arms. "Oh!" he teased. "You care?" "I was worried you'd fall and I'd get blamed," she shot back. "Not that I care what happens to you, personally." He chuckled. "Fair enough." She sighed, brushing her hair back. "I came here to replace Dylan. Find someone better. Or at least more fun." "Well, mission failed," Cameron said, raising his hand. "I'm neither better nor fun. Just drunk." "You don't say?" A silence settled between them as the city lights blinked below. "You know," he said after a beat, "you're the most interesting woman I've ever met." Arya rolled her eyes. "You're the most trouble I've ever met." But she didn't leave. And neither did he. Arya hadn't meant to stay long. Her original plan was to give Cameron a piece of her mind, maybe help him up if he looked like he was about to fall, then get the hell out of there. But somehow, 30 minutes later, she found herself sitting on a bench on the rooftop beside him, the city sprawling beneath them, like a never-ending maze of mistakes and neon dreams. "So, we're really doing this?" Cameron asked, glancing at her sideways, his speech a little less slurred now. "Doing what?" she asked flatly, arms crossed, legs stretched out in front of her. "This little rooftop bonding session," he said, nudging her with his elbow. She rolled her eyes. "Don't flatter yourself. I'm just making sure you don't nose it off the edge and turn into a tabloid headline." He grinned, touching. She stared at the skyline, letting the silence grow between them again. This time, not entirely unpleasant. The wind tugged at her hair. She exhaled. "I still can't believe Dylan cheated," she said softly, almost to herself. "Yeah," Cameron muttered. "That part. I honestly didn't see coming." She looked at him. "You're his friend. You should have warned me." "I didn't know," he said quickly. "We barely talked while I was out of state. The Dylan I knew. He was dumb, sure, but not heartless." "Well, turns out he's both," Arya replied, her voice flat. Cameron was quiet for a moment, then said, "So what now? You going to get revenge? Post a thirst trap? Get a new guy to parade in front of him?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe not." "I just wanted to feel like I mattered again. Like I could take control of something after everything fell apart." He was watching her now, really watching. "Well, if you want, I could help with that." She turned slowly. "Help how?" "We pretend to be together," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Fake relationship. Classic setup. Make Dylan squirm. Maybe make you feel better in the process." Arya blinked. "Are you drunker than you look?" "I'm serious," he said, sitting up straighter. "We pretend to be a couple. Go out, post some photos. I've got events coming up, and if people think we're dating, Dylan will hear about it fast." "And what do you get out of this?" He hesitated. "I get someone who doesn't want anything from me. Most people around me, women especially, they see the last name, the bank account, the penthouse, and they want a piece. You. You already hate me. It's kind of refreshing." Arya laughed, despite herself. "You're an idiot." "Possibly," he agreed, "but I'm an idiot with a plan." She gave him a long, skeptical look. "This is insane." "Probably," he said with a grin. "But you're not exactly playing it safe either, Miss Velvet Room Makeover. So, what do you say?" She hesitated. The idea was ridiculous, dangerous. A fake relationship with the man she accidentally gave her virginity to. The same man who'd turned her world upside down with one drunken misunderstanding. And yet, a tiny part of her craved the chaos, craved the distraction. "Fine," she said finally. "But there are rules." "Of course," he said, lighting up like a kid on Christmas. "Lay 'em on me. No kissing. No touching. No real feelings. And if you try anything stupid, I swear I'll make you regret it." He held up a hand. "Scout's honor." "I doubt you were ever a scout." "True," he said, grinning. "But I make a great fake boyfriend." Arya stood, dusting off her dress. "We'll see about that." As they made their way down from the rooftop, Cameron singing softly under his breath and stumbling every few steps, Arya couldn't help but shake her head. She had no idea what she'd just agreed to, but for the first time in days, she felt something that wasn't shame or heartbreak. She felt the spark of a new game. And she was ready to play. Over the next 2 weeks, Arya and Cameron executed their fake relationship with an almost unsettling level of flair. It started with subtle posts on social media. Just a photo of them laughing at a coffee shop, her hand on his arm, his smile just a little too perfect. Then came the group dinner at a rooftop restaurant where Cameron accidentally kissed her forehead as the waiter approached. By the third event, a charity gala hosted by one of Cameron's family foundations. Everyone in the city's social circle had an opinion about the couple that had seemingly come out of nowhere. Dylan noticed. Of course he did. Arya had barely stepped into the ballroom in a sapphire gown Cameron had sent her that morning when she spotted Dylan across the room. He was alone, drink in hand, staring at them like he was trying to solve a crime scene with his eyes. Target acquired, Cameron murmured at her side, his hand finding the small of her back in that way he always did now. Just enough to make it look convincing, but never enough to make her feel uncomfortable. Arya gave Dylan a calm, neutral glance and then turned her attention back to Cameron. Keep your hand right there. Let him stew. You know, for someone who claims she's not into drama, Cameron whispered. You're getting scarily good at this. I learned from the best, she said with a dry smile. Later that night, when the crowd thinned and the rooftop bar emptied out, Cameron and Arya stayed behind, sipping mocktails and letting the cool breeze wash over them. You looked incredible tonight, he said suddenly, his voice quieter than usual. She glanced at him. Careful. West. You're breaking rule number 3. He smirked. Wasn't flirting, just stating a fact. Mom. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that didn't feel awkward anymore. It was strange how easy it had become to be around him. She still remembered how furious she'd been the morning after their mistake. But now, she didn't know exactly when the line between fake and real had started to blur, but it had. You're different than I expected, she said suddenly. Let me guess, he replied, turning toward her. You thought I'd be a spoiled rich kid with no depth and a thing for chaos? I didn't say that, she said, smiling despite herself. You didn't have to. That's what most people think. He paused, eyes drifting out toward the lights of the city. I guess that's who I used to be, maybe still am. But then someone came into my life and treated me like I was just a guy, not a name, not a wallet. And for the first time, I actually liked who I was around her. Arya's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly looked away. Let me guess, she dumped you? No, he said softly. She's sitting right next to me. Before Arya could respond, before she could even process those words, a familiar voice cut through the quiet air behind them. There you are. Dylan. Arya turned slowly, instantly going rigid. He stood there, half-shadowed, half smirking, with his hands stuffed in his coat pockets, like he had every right to be there. Jake, Cameron said, voice hardening, not a good time. I wasn't talking to you, Dylan snapped, his eyes locked on Arya. We need to talk. Alone. No, she said immediately. We really don't. Come on, Arya. Don't do this here. I've been trying to call you. You lost the right to call me the moment I saw you with someone else in your bed, she said coolly. Dylan ran a hand through his hair. I messed up. I know that. But you and I, we were real. And this, he gestured between her and Cameron. This is just a show. Maybe it was, Arya said. But even this fake thing. It's been more honest than anything I had with you. Arya, please. Before he could say more, Cameron stepped forward. You heard her. She doesn't want to talk to you. Dylan's fists clenched. Stay out of this, man. You already took everything from me. You really gonna stand there like you didn't stab me in the back? Cameron's jaw tensed, but his voice stayed calm. You did that to yourself. Arya moved between them. Enough, both of you. Dylan, we're done. You should too. She took Cameron's hand, and for once, it didn't feel fake at all. It felt like something real, something steady. Dylan stared at her for a moment, eyes flashing, but said nothing more. Then he turned and walked away, leaving them in the silence he never could handle. Cameron squeezed her hand. You okay? Arya nodded slowly. Yeah. For the first time. It started with nausea. At first, Arya thought it was just the stress. She had barely eaten in days, and her sleep was inconsistent, broken by strange dreams and racing thoughts. Her head ached constantly, and certain smells. Lies, Zoe's favorite lavender hand cream or even black coffee, suddenly made her stomach turn. But when she found herself curled over the bathroom sink 3 mornings in a row, dry heaving, with no explanation, she knew it wasn't just nerves. She stood in front of the mirror, pale and trembling, one hand pressed against her belly. No, she whispered. No, no, no. That afternoon, she bought a pregnancy test from the tiny pharmacy 3 blocks away, wearing sunglasses and a hoodie like she was trying to rob the place. Back in her apartment, Zoe watched her from the doorway as she sat on the edge of the tub, clutching the unopened box. You okay? Zoe asked gently. Arya didn't answer. She just shook her head and disappeared into the bathroom. The test took less than 5 minutes. The result took less than 2 to shatter her world. Pregnant. Pregnant. The word glared back at her in bold digital letters. She sat frozen on the tiled floor, the test still in her hand. Her mind spiraled with images. The candles in Dylan's room, the blindfold, the lips on her neck, the voice that hadn't been Dylan's. Cameron, that night, that one night. Oh my God, she whispered. It's his. There hadn't been anyone else. Dylan never showed. It had been Cameron and Cameron alone. Arya didn't cry. Not right away. She just stared at the wall, her mind blank, her body too numb to register what was happening inside it. Later that night, after Zoe sat her down with a mug of ginger tea and a blanket, Arya finally found her voice. I can't tell him, she said quietly. Zoe frowned. You mean Cameron? I mean either of them, Arya replied. Dylan's out of my life. And Cameron. He thinks this is just a game. We're pretending. There's nothing real between us. But a baby is real. I know, Arya whispered. That's why it's safer if I leave. Zoe's eyes widened. What? I need to disappear. Start over somewhere else. I can't raise a child in the middle of this circus. I need space. I need peace. I don't want to be a pawn between 2 guys who once shared a college dorm. You're not a pawn, Zoe said gently. You're a mother now. The word hit harder than Arya expected. Mother, mother. It still didn't feel real. She left the city a week later, packed up her things, gave notice at the hotel, and said goodbye to Zoe with a hug that lasted too long. She moved to a quiet town several hours away, one where no one knew her name or her story. She found a modest 1-bedroom apartment above a bakery, picked up shifts as a front desk clerk at a local inn, and told everyone she was just a single woman starting fresh. She didn't tell them she was running. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Morning sickness was brutal, and loneliness became a constant shadow. She missed Zoe, missed the familiarity of her old life, even missed the fake thrill of pretending to be with Cameron. But more than anything, she missed feeling like she wasn't alone in this. Sometimes she found herself wondering what Cameron would have said if she told him, if he would have laughed it off or frozen in shock, if he would have stayed, if he would have cared. But she didn't let herself dwell on those thoughts too long. She had made a choice, and she had to live with it. When her belly began to show, she spent hours at the library researching baby names, holding her bump and whispering to it like the child inside her could already hear. She chose the name Lily. It meant purity, renewal, a quiet kind of strength. By her 8th month, her days had taken on a rhythm. Work, rest, prenatal appointments, and long walks by the lake near her apartment. She tried to believe everything would be okay, that she could do this on her own, that leaving was the right thing. And yet, every night as she lay in bed, hand resting over her stomach, she still heard his voice in her memory. The night on the rooftop, the way he'd looked at her in the moonlight, the way he'd said, "You're the most interesting woman I've ever met." She closed her eyes and whispered into the darkness, "I'm sorry, Cameron." But she knew she wasn't just apologizing to him. She was apologizing to the part of herself that still wanted him to know. The sky outside was gray, heavy with the kind of clouds that promised either a storm or snow, but inside Aria's small apartment, everything felt still. Too still. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the clock as another contraction rippled through her belly, sharp, deep, and closer than the last one. Her water had broken 20 minutes ago. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her phone, only to see an incoming message. Not from Zoe, not from the hospital, but from him. Jake. Aria hesitated for a breath, then answered. Aria. His voice came through the line, low and uncertain. It's me. I know, she said, keeping her tone even. How did you even get this number? Zoe, he admitted. I begged her. I needed to see you. She closed her eyes, bracing against another contraction. Jake, this really isn't the time. I'm outside. Her eyes flew open. What? I'm right outside your building. Aria hung up without another word, grabbed her coat, and made her way downstairs as fast as her 8-month pregnant body would allow. Sure enough, there he was, standing in the cold with a bouquet of wilted tulips and a guilty expression. You shouldn't be here, she said. The moment she stepped outside, arms crossed tightly over her chest. And I really don't have time for this. Jake's eyes dropped to her belly, his face pale. You're sharp as ever, she muttered. He didn't move. Is it his? Aria gave a dry laugh. Don't pretend you don't already know. I wanted to hear it from you. She sighed, wincing slightly. Yes, it's Cameron's. Jake's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. After a beat, he stepped closer. Does he know? No, she said quietly. And I'd like to keep it that way. But why, he asked, eyes searching hers. You're carrying his child, Aria. Doesn't he deserve to know that? Aria's expression hardened. Does it matter? He's probably engaged to Jessica by now, off in some luxury penthouse, living a life that doesn't include me. I left because I didn't want to be anyone's complication. Jake's mouth opened to respond, but another contraction hit her so hard that she staggered. Aria, he said, stepping forward. Are you okay? No, she gasped, gripping her stomach. I... Without hesitation, Jake scooped her into his arms and rushed her to his car. Aria didn't even have the strength to protest. Her entire body was trembling. Every bump in the road felt like fire. She bit down on her lip to keep from screaming. Just hang on, Jake said, panic rising in his voice. You're going to be okay. We're almost there. When they arrived at the hospital, nurses took over immediately, rolling her into the maternity ward while Jake followed behind, pale and speechless. The delivery room was a blur. Machines beeping, nurses shouting, the doctor's calm voice guiding her through the waves of pain. And then, a cry. High, clear, and impossibly beautiful. She's perfect, the nurse whispered, placing the tiny newborn into Aria's trembling arms. Aria looked down, tears spilling freely as she saw her daughter's face for the first time.
on your mom?
Jake stood at the doorway, eyes glassy. She's... Arya nodded without looking at him. She's everything. I mean it, Jake said, stepping inside slowly. And I know I have no right, but if you ever need anything... Jake, she cut in gently. I appreciate what you did today, really. But you don't have to stay. This isn't your responsibility. I know, he said softly. But maybe I can be her godfather. Arya looked up, startled, and then let out a soft laugh. You're ridiculous. Just saying, it's better than being the ex who shows up with dying flowers. They shared a small smile. From that day on, Jake kept his promise. He didn't push, didn't overstep, but he was there, dropping off groceries, assembling a crib, and calling just to check in. Alongside Zoe, he became a quiet presence in Arya's new life. Still, when the nights grew quiet and Lily slept in her crib, Arya often found herself standing by the window, staring at the moon, wondering where Cameron was. Wondering what he'd say if he knew. She pressed a hand to the glass, her heart aching. Some secrets, she whispered, are safer kept in silence. 5 years passed. The quiet town Arya had chosen to hide in had become her sanctuary. Lily grew from a fragile newborn into a curious, vibrant little girl with her mother's deep eyes and a smile that reminded Arya too much of someone she tried not to think about. She worked mornings at the inn's front desk and spent afternoons baking cookies with Lily, reading storybooks, and tending to a tiny window garden they planted together. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was real and safe, and after everything, that was enough. Until it wasn't. One rainy afternoon, as gray clouds swallowed the sky, and Lily clutched Arya's hand tightly on a crowded city bus, the little girl tilted her head curiously. "Mommy?" she asked. "Yes, sweetheart." Lily's big eyes blinked up at her. "Do all kids have a daddy?" Arya's throat tightened. "Well, usually." "Then how come I don't?" Lily's tone was innocent, filled with honest wonder. "Is he on a trip or something?" Arya stared out the window for a moment, her reflection wavering in the glass. She had always known this question would come. But it still hit like a truck to the chest. "I'll tell you everything when you're older, okay?" she said gently, brushing her daughter's curls behind her ear. "For now, just know you're very loved." Lily nodded, though her small face was still pensive. "Okay, Mommy. I love you too." Arya kissed the top of her head and closed her eyes, the guilt clawing its way back through her chest. She never saw the car coming. It happened in a blink. 1 second, they were laughing, and the next, a deafening crash filled the air as the bus jolted sideways. People screamed. Glass shattered. The world spun. When Arya came to, she was surrounded by chaos. Her head throbbed, her palms scraped raw from where she'd tried to shield her child. "Lily," she gasped, stumbling to her feet. "Lily." Frantic, she pushed past the panicked passengers, searching every face. A nurse finally stopped her, directing her to the emergency room where the injured were being treated. There, in a small, sterile room, she found her daughter, unmoving, pale, hooked up to machines. "No," Arya whispered. "No, no, no, no." A doctor approached, clipboard in hand. "Mom, are you the child's mother?" "Yes. Is she okay? Please tell me she's going to be okay." "She's stable," the doctor said, "but she suffered a deep abdominal wound. We were able to close it, but she lost a significant amount of blood. She needs a transfusion, immediately." "Take mine," Arya said quickly. "I'm her mother. I'm sure we match." The doctor shook his head. We ran tests already. Your blood type is a positive. Your daughter's is B negative. Arya stared at him, her mind short-circuiting. That can't be. Are you sure? We're absolutely sure, the doctor replied. We're searching our database, but so far, no donor match has been found. Her knees nearly buckled. She leaned against the wall, her breathing ragged. Please find someone. Then, a voice behind her, calm, urgent, familiar. Let me donate. I'm B negative. She turned. Her heart stopped. There, standing at the end of the hallway, was Cameron West. He looked older, sharper. But those eyes, those same eyes she had stared into on a rooftop 5 years ago, still held that same quiet intensity. Cameron, she choked. He moved closer, shaking his head slowly. Arya. I saw your name on the news. They listed you as a passenger. I had to come. Her chest heaved. But how? I've looked for you for years, he said, eyes never leaving hers. I didn't know why you disappeared. I thought you hated me. But now... He glanced toward the hospital room, toward Lily. She's mine, isn't she? Arya didn't speak. She just nodded. Cameron stepped forward, placing a trembling hand on her shoulder. Then let me save her. Minutes later, he was in the transfusion room, blood flowing through the tube, into their daughter's body. Arya watched from the window, hands pressed against the glass, tears falling freely. She had run for so long, out of fear, out of shame, out of love, but now the truth had caught up with her. And maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all. The hours after the transfusion were the longest of Arya's life. She sat by Lily's bedside, her daughter's tiny hand curled around her finger, machines beeping steadily nearby. Cameron remained close, just outside the room, giving them space but never once leaving the hallway. Nurses came and went, whispering updates and offering reassurances, but all Arya could hear was the question echoing in her mind. Why now? Why did he come? When Lily finally stirred, blinking against the harsh fluorescent lights, Arya leaned in, her voice trembling. Sweetheart! Lily? Can you hear me? The little girl nodded weakly. Mommy? I'm right here, baby, she said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You're safe now. Lily's gaze drifted past her mother to the doorway, where Cameron stood, his expression soft and unsure. Who's that? She whispered. Arya hesitated. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she nodded, as if giving herself permission. That's someone very important. His name is Cameron. He's your papa. Lily blinked slowly, her lips parting. My papa? Cameron stepped inside, cautious, as if one wrong move would shatter the fragile moment. He knelt beside the bed, his voice quiet. Hi, Lily. I'm Cameron. But if it's okay with you... Lily studied him, as if trying to decide whether she recognized something in his face. Then, without a word, she reached out her small hand and placed it on his. Arya swallowed hard, emotions welling up in her throat. After the nurses confirmed Lily was stable and resting, Arya stepped into the hallway with Cameron, the tension between them no longer sharp, just heavy. I should have told you, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to, so many times. But I was scared. And by the time I realized how I felt, you were engaged. I saw you with Jessica. I thought, I thought it was too late. Cameron looked at her, stunned. Jessica, Arya nodded slowly. At your house. I saw you both. Realization crossed his face like lightning. Arya, I was drugged. I don't even remember that night. She must have let herself in with an old access code. I never touched her. Not willingly, I ended everything with her months before that. She just wouldn't accept it. Arya's heart slammed against her ribs. What? I came back from a trip, and there she was. I didn't even know you'd been in the house. He stepped closer, urgency in his voice. If I'd known you were pregnant, if I'd known the truth, I would gone to the ends of the earth to find you. She blinked, tears stinging her eyes. I looked for you, he said, softer now. I asked Zoe, asked around at your old job, even hired a private investigator. But it was like you vanished. When your name appeared in the news after the crash, I dropped everything. She stared at the floor, overcome with a mix of regret and wonder. So all this time, she cared. He nodded. More than you know. They stood in silence, the weight of 5 lost years between them. Why didn't you ever get married? She asked finally, her voice breaking. If you thought I was gone forever? Because I was already in love with someone, he said simply, and I couldn't pretend otherwise. Arya's chest ached at his words. I didn't know what to expect when I saw you again. I didn't even plan to tell you about Lily. But when I saw you standing there, I knew. She deserves to know her father, and you. She deserves to know her father, and you. He stepped closer, brushing her hair back gently. And what about you? She looked up, tears in her eyes. That depends. On what? On whether you're willing to start over, she whispered. Not just for her, but for us. Cameron's smile was slow and full of hope. I've been waiting 5 years to start over with you. And for the first time in a long time, Arya let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, they could begin again. The following weeks unfolded like a second chance Arya never thought she'd get. She and Lily moved into Cameron's spacious home, and while the mansion still overwhelmed her with its grandeur, it no longer felt cold. Cameron made sure of that. He changed the alarm code, gave Arya her own set of keys, cleared a sunlit room beside the master suite for Lily and filled it with stuffed animals, glittery curtains, and a nightlight shaped like the moon. At first, everything felt tentative, like walking across a frozen lake that might crack beneath them at any moment. Arya kept her distance emotionally, unsure how to let Cameron back into her heart. He never pushed. Instead, he showed up every day in small, steady ways. He packed Lily's lunch before preschool. He asked Arya how her day went, listened without judgment, and cooked dinner on weekends. The quiet stability in his presence began to soothe her. Lily adored him instantly. She ran to greet him at the door, climbed onto his lap during movie nights, and started calling him Papa like it had always been that way. One evening, as they sat together reading bedtime stories, Lily reached out and held both their hands. This is nice, she said sleepily. It feels like a real family. Arya's eyes met Cameron's across the bed. Something unspoken passed between them. A fragile hope. Later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep, Arya wandered onto the balcony just outside her room. Cameron stood there already, a glass of water in hand, watching the stars blink through the darkness. He turned when he heard her, his smile gentle. You couldn't sleep either, he asked. No, she said, stepping beside him. Too many thoughts. Want to talk about them? She hesitated, then nodded. I'm scared, Cameron. Not of you. Just scared of wanting something again. Of letting myself need someone. He looked at her for a long moment, then set his glass down. Arya, I don't want to pressure you. I just want to be here. However you need me. If it's as a friend, a co-parent, or more. I'll wait. You don't have to decide tonight. Her throat tightened. You say all the right things. I mean them, he said quietly. I messed up once by letting you slip away. I won't do it again. A long silence settled between them, the kind that was full of understanding. Arya stepped closer, so close their shoulders touched. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything. Do you ever regret that night, the one in Dylan's apartment? He paused, not to dodge the question, but to weigh his words carefully. No, he said finally. I regret the confusion. I regret the hurt you carried. But what happened between us, that night changed everything. For me, it wasn't just a mistake. It was the moment I realized I wanted something real. Arya exhaled, a mix of relief and emotion pooling in her chest. I've been trying to forget it for so long, but it never went away. Maybe we're not meant to forget, Cameron said. Maybe we're meant to build something better from it. He reached for her hand, slow and gentle. She didn't pull away. Their fingers laced together like it was the most natural thing in the world. I think I'm ready, she whispered. His brows lifted slightly, his expression unreadable. To try, she added, her voice steadier. To let you in. He smiled then, wide and unguarded. That's all I've wanted. She stepped closer until her forehead rested lightly against his chest. His arms came around her instinctively, warm and secure. For the first time in years, Arya felt safe. Not because she was hiding, but because someone had chosen to stay. Through chaos, through chaos, through chaos, through time, lost and love rediscovered. And in that moment, she realized something. Love, when real, always finds its way home. The sun filtered softly through the curtains of the breakfast nook, casting a golden glow across the table where Arya, Cameron, and Lily sat together, laughing over a slightly burned stack of pancakes. Cameron had insisted on cooking that morning, determined to master the art of a perfectly flipped pancake, and the results were endearingly imperfect. Lily didn't seem to mind. She giggled each time one landed on the floor instead of the plate, clapping her syrup, sticky hands with joy. Arya watched them both, heart full and eyes glassy. This was her new reality. It wasn't polished or perfect, but it was real. After years of holding her breath, she was finally learning how to breathe again. Later that afternoon, they took Lily to the park, where she chased butterflies and showed off her cartwheel attempts. Arya and Cameron sat on the bench nearby, watching her with the quiet pride of people who had fought hard for peace and finally earned it. Every now and then, their hands found each other, naturally, as if their fingers had been meant to intertwine all along. I've been thinking, Cameron said, his voice calm, but tinged with nervous energy. Arya turned to him, amused. Dangerous words. He smiled, but it was different this time. A deeper seriousness settled in his eyes. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, the kind Arya had seen 1,000 times in hotel lobbies, from men with too much money and too little sincerity. But this was different. This was Cameron. Her breath caught. I know we've only just started rebuilding, he said softly. But I also know what it feels like to lose you. I know what it's like to live every day wondering if you'll come back, and I never want to feel that again. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring with a single delicate diamond. I don't want perfect, he said. I just want us, the three of us. Me, you, and Lily. A family. A life where we laugh at burnt pancakes and stay up too late telling stories. Will you marry me, Aria? For a moment, she couldn't speak. Her heart pounded so hard it felt like it might lift her off the bench. Tears welled in her eyes, and she glanced over at Lily, who had stopped playing and was now watching them curiously from the swing set. Aria turned back to Cameron, her voice barely a whisper. Yes. His eyes lit up, and without hesitation, he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Lily squealed from across the park.
Did he ask you, Mommy?
Aria laughed through her tears and called back, Yeah, baby. He did. And you said, yes? I did. Lily let out a cheer and ran into Cameron's arms, wrapping him in a tight hug that made his eyes shine. That night, back at home, they celebrated with takeout and dancing in the living room. Aria twirled Lily in circles, while Cameron clapped along to the beat of an old love song playing from the stereo. The house echoed with laughter and joy, warmth radiating through every corner like sunlight after a long winter. As Lily drifted off to sleep later, curled between them on the couch, Aria rested her head on Cameron's shoulder. He kissed the top of her head and held her tighter. We made it, he murmured. She nodded. We did. She thought back to the girl she used to be, the one who had waited in a red-decorated bedroom for a man who never came, the one who had cried herself to sleep with a blindfold on, only to wake up beside a stranger who would unknowingly change her life forever. That girl would never have imagined this ending, but maybe it wasn't an ending at all. Maybe it was just the beginning. Aria closed her eyes, listening to the soft rhythm of Cameron's breathing and the even gentler sound of Lily's dreams. For the first time, in what felt like forever, her heart was still. Home wasn't a place, it was this moment. A family born from chaos, shaped by forgiveness and held together by love. Life lesson from Aria and Cameron's story. At its core, Aria and Cameron's journey is a powerful reminder that life rarely unfolds the way we plan it. Sometimes, the most unexpected moments, even painful, confusing ones, lead us to the people and places we're truly meant for. Aria's story teaches us that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. It just has to be honest. She went through heartbreak, betrayal, fear, and self-doubt, yet she found strength in her vulnerability and grace in her mistakes. Cameron's journey shows that genuine love is patient. It doesn't force, it waits. It builds, not demands. This story also reminds us of the importance of second chances. Not every ending means it's over. Sometimes it's just life clearing the path for something better. Aria and Cameron didn't have a fairy tale beginning. But through forgiveness, growth, and courage, they created a new beginning, a real one. And perhaps the most beautiful lesson of all, family isn't always formed by tradition. It's built on love, effort, and showing up. Again and again, for the people who matter most. If this story touched your heart, made you smile, cry, or reflect on your own journey, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments and let us know. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss another emotional, heartfelt story like this one. Hit that bell icon too. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Thank you for being here. Your support means everything.